Good afternoon. I'm Meteorologist James Longwith with Dynamic Weather Agency LLC, providing you today with your severe weather forecast for parts of the Central Plains and the lower Missouri Valley. And not only do we have the threat for severe weather, including small chance for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds today, but we're also going to be taking a look at the potential for some flash flooding. Before I get into today's video, I do want to encourage you guys to hit that like button down below. Subscribe to our channel. It does help out that YouTube algorithm, allowing my videos to get out to more people so I can help them be weather aware in the event of severe weather for today. I do want to encourage you guys to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. It does help out with that YouTube algorithm, allows more people to be able to find my channel and videos like this so I can convey the message that there's going to be severe weather today across some of these areas and the potential for flash flooding. Not only that, I do encourage you guys to hit that, head on down to the description section. You can find all the links to our social media pages, including our website down there, dynamicweatheragency.com, where you can find live radar and be able to see current watches, warnings, advisories, things like that. And for tropical weather, we do have an interactive hurricane tropical tracker on over there that you guys can check on out. And last but not least, there's also a link for our Patreon page to help support this channel and allow me to create more videos and content like this. Now, getting into today's video. For the most part, today there is a threat for severe weather. Like I said, there is a slight risk for severe weather today, encompassing parts of basically northeastern Kansas, northern Missouri, southeastern Nebraska, and southwestern Iowa today, with a marginal risk surrounding that. You can see places in that slight risk include Salina, Kansas City, St. Joseph, and Columbia, west of Quincy, and south of Omaha. But places like Wichita Falls, Springfield, Missouri, even west of Eden, Oklahoma, can see threat for some severe weather today. The Storm Prediction Center does have a 2% tornado probability near Salina, Wichita, Kansas today. And I think this is really on the low end. I wouldn't be too much worried about this. The wind shear and the storm relative helicity values are really low, not really supportive of a tornado threat, but there is still that slight possibility for tornadoes today. For the most part, the main threat for that severe weather event today is the threat for damaging hail greater than or equal to 1 inch for Salina, Kansas City, St. Joseph, Columbia, south of Omaha, and west of Quincy. Within that slight risk area today, the main threat for today driving the severe weather risk is going to be that possibility for damaging hail. Now, for damaging wind gusts today, ignore the top of this graphic, still says damaging hail, but it's for damaging winds, mostly south of I-70, along the I-35, north of I-40, kind of in Kansas and in the Oklahoma area. There's some models were kind of suggesting earlier that some slight areas of convection could develop within this region. There's a low-level jet screaming across this area that we'll show in a little bit that could support damaging wind gusts with the downdrafts of these storms. But for the most part, most of the models are not really showing much convective activity developing in this area. And I suggest you guys to go over to our page, our dynamicweatheragency.com, head over to our forecast and look at those SPC Outlooks. We'll look for that update because I suspect this area to maybe be tailored back a little bit on the latest Storm Prediction Center update, because a lot of the weather models are not really showing much as in convective activity developing over this area for the most part. Like I said, slight risk for severe storms today, low tornado threat, mostly the threat today is for going to be hail, and again, a low wind threat. So we do have this area of low pressure just across the southwestern portions of Kansas, a dry line extending across parts of Texas and then back into New Mexico. And we have this weak stationary boundary stretch across the area that's going to begin to basically undergo some frontogenesis and become more of a warm front as the low-level surface winds evac warm, moist air over the area, and we'll see that warm front begin to intensify as that short wave begins to move on closer, with the Pedersen rule beginning to develop, allowing for this low-pressure system to undergo some cyclogenesis. This is the forecast surface analysis as we move into about 0Z this evening. So this is about 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. You can see that low pressure system has moved a little bit to the north and to the east. You see that stationary boundary still there. I think this is more of a warm front by the time this begins to around this time, as the warm air continues to move and evac northward across the region. Taking a look at the 21Z model, this is the HRRR model for moisture. You can see the dry line across basically parts of southern Kansas, across western Oklahoma, and parts of northwestern Texas. And this is going to be the main initiation line for that for the thunderstorms in Oklahoma and Texas, where that damaging wind threat is going to most likely be, where that low-level jet is going to be moving on across. You can see the southerly winds coming out of the south at about 10 to 20 knots, affecting low-level moisture across the area. This is looking at about 2 meters, so just right above the surface, and you can see that warm front draped across the area. Southerly winds right here becoming more easterly, where that boundary is. So we have that change of direction of winds right there, and a lot of this is going to allow is a lot of this low-level moisture is going to move on over this warm frontal boundary. Some thunderstorms are going to initiate right along this boundary right here, and they're going to be more elevated in nature, as you see some of the more drier air out ahead of that warm front. Out ahead of that warm front, as you take a look at our Skew T sounding here in just a little bit, these thunderstorms are going to be more elevated, and that's going to be more what's promoting that hail threat more than tornadoes and stuff like that. The tornado threat is going to be mostly confined to where this basically this dry line in this warm front is basically just right in this little small broad region of the warm sector of this new developing low. You can see that unstable air mass beginning to develop across the area. We have instability well above 1,500 joules per kilogram, and even above 2,000 joules per kilogram, approaching 2,500 joules per kilogram in a lot of this area. And what CAPE is showing us is what it stands for is convective available potential energy. So basically it's the measure amount of the potential amount of energy that's stored in the atmosphere for thunderstorms to feed off of. The more energy there is, the more that thunderstorms can grow and build to be stronger in that nature. And basically what is happening is the environmental lapse rate is greater than the moist lapse rate. There's warm air at the surface, cold air aloft, creating instability. And this is enhanced by that low-level moisture and warm air advection and a short wave moving on into the area, as we'll see as we move into our upper air analysis charts and stuff like that. Now, taking a look at 850 millibars, this is at 21Z, so about 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We have an increasing low-level jet over across of Oklahoma. This is going to be that key factor for that damaging wind gust threat across that area. This is what is basically causing that. Any thunderstorms that develop and they have that low-level jet, those downdrafts are going to be able to produce basically marginally damaging wind gusts within this area with this 25 to 35 knot low-level jet that's going to be beginning to increase as that low-pressure system undergoes cyclogenesis. Now, as we take a look at 500 millibars, we do have a 500 millibar shortwave ejecting its way out over the Rocky Mountain region. This is basically what's helping create cyclogenesis. You have basically with a shortwave out ahead of that, you have upward vertical motion, divergence aloft, and you have PVA. PVA is positive vorticity infection. Is basically basically is saying that this is enabling cyclonic spin in the atmosphere, which is good for cyclogenesis. Now, as we move on up to 300 millibars, taking a look at our jet, we do have a discontinuous jet due to this kind of weak shortwave ridge moving on through the area. We have a jet max again, just west of the Rockies, getting ready to eject on out. That's going to help promote that cyclogenesis with that shortwave out ahead of that. We do have a little bit of upper level divergence and exhaust and a little bit out of the way of where our severe weather event is going to be. This is eventually going to transverse its way eastward across the area, promoting just a little bit of divergence aloft across the area, but not much. Now, as we take a look at this, we do have a couple of jet fingers moving on into the region. We do have converging jet fingers over across the Midwest. This is creating some subsidence and high pressure across this area today, but a lot of this is going to change as this jet and this trough axis continues to deep with these strong winds behind it, increasing this trough axis and increasing that cold air advection behind it, which is also going to help promote cyclogenesis at the surface. Now, as we take a look at our surface-based CAPE and our crossover winds, surface winds coming out from the south, our 850 millibar winds are more southwesterly, and our basically our 500 millibar winds are coming from the west. So we do have a little bit of directional shear within the warm sector, the broad warm sector of this developing low pressure system. However, speed shear isn't that impressive. 15 knots, 25 knots, 30 knots. So not much as in for speed shear. We do have nice low level winds. I mean, we have strong low level winds, which is what we kind of want whenever we're talking about tornadoes and stuff like that. You want to see some pretty strong surface winds to help aid that, but the speed shear up in the lowest 1 kilometer is relatively weak, and we'll see that as we take a look at our Skew T. So taking a look at our Skew T right here, surface temperature is around 77, surface dew point is around 65. So we do have a pretty moist environment right here. And this is right around that warm front area, kind of more where the severe hail threat is going to be, where those thunderstorms are going to develop and ride along ahead of that warm front. LCL heights, around 850 millibars. So this is going to be right around 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. So these are going to be more elevated thunderstorms, probably a little bit lower than 5,000 feet, just because where they're going to develop. But they're going to be more elevated in nature. For tornadoes, we want to see them right around 1,000 feet or below for tornado development. But for the most part, those LCL heights are going to be relatively high. We do have a elevated mix layer that's going to help steepen mid-level lapse rates. It's going to allow for the atmosphere to cool faster with height. That's going to help promote that hail within this region. Again, like I said, those low level winds are southeasterly, becoming more westerly as we move on up. The speed shear is really crap. It's not really that good. You can see that right here on our hodograph. Barely any curvature within our hodograph, as you're going to see quite a bit of difference when we look at tomorrow's hodograph for the severe weather front, where we're probably going to have are going to have a more increased threat chance for tornadoes tomorrow. So that's going to decrease that storm relative helicity. Storm relative helicity values are less than 100 meters squared per second squared. So, that's not conducive to promoting cyclonic rotating updrafts. Like I said, though, we do have quite a bit of instability, around 2,500 joules per kilogram. So we have a very unstable atmosphere. We have a lot of energy for the thunderstorms. Lift indices around -6. But like I said, our 0 to 1 kilometer shear, 11 knots. That's not that good. Our 0 to 3 kilometer shear is around 40. Hey, that's better. 40 knots is pretty good. That'll allow for organized storms. But then our 0 to 6 kilometer shear kind of backs back down to about 37. Still good enough for allowing for organized thunderstorms. Both promote supercellular thunderstorms, as in the shear values. You want around 35 knots or greater, but for the most part, it's not that impressive. Some of the analogs are picking up on the possibility for some hail. There's a few analogs, indicating sounding similar to this. Did have a storm that produced 2 3/4 inch hail, one with 2 inch hail, and one with 1 1/4 inch hail. So hail is going to be primarily the main threat for some of these storm systems to the south. Like I said, that damaging wind gust is going to be the more predominant feature. So taking a look at our Futurecast radar, like I said, we had a small area of showers and thunderstorms moving through central and south central Missouri, and those storms are going to continue to push off to the south and the east. They're going to dissipate a little bit. Some of those rain showers are going to continue, but by the time we get to 8, 9 o'clock, we'll see some new initiation along that warm frontal boundary. As that boundary continues to lift northward, it's going to provide some synoptic forcing, allowing for some new development of rain showers as we move into the evening and overnight hours. And these are going to be our showers and thunderstorms that are going to be our hail producers across parts of northern Missouri as we move into the evening and overnight. As we move into 10 o'clock, even 11 o'clock, you can see those stronger thunderstorms beginning to develop across this area. And one thing I want to note, not only is these thunderstorms going to continue to grow in size and coverage, they're going to remain over some of these areas for quite some time, and that's going to create the potential for some really heavy rain across some of these areas, with some of these storms kind of training over each other with repeated downpours over some areas, and that's going to lead to the threat for some potential for some flash flooding over the area. Now, taking a look at this graphic, this is the Weather Prediction Center Day 1 quantitative precipitation forecast. Basically, anywhere in these dark blues is where you can see greater than half an inch of precipitation. As we start moving into these more teal colors right here, this is 1 1/4 inch of precipitation. And as we move into these purples, it's anywhere from 1 1/2 inch to 2 inches, and these reds are 2 1/2 to 3 inches of precipitation. So these thunderstorms are going to be moving quite slowly. They're going to produce a lot of rain, and they're going to be training. So that means storm systems are going to continue not is only one storm going to pass over the area. Storms are going to backbuild behind that, and they're going to get multiple storms kind of showering over the same area, creating some of these really heavy precipitation totals across these areas over the next 24 hours, stretching all the way across parts of extreme northeastern Missouri into western Illinois, even parts of central Illinois and parts of southern Iowa as we go into the nighttime hours. Again, I'd like to thank you guys for checking out today's video. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Like I said, helps out that YouTube algorithm, allows more people to get the weather information that they need. And last but not least, be sure to check out those links down in the description section, along with visiting our Patreon page to help support this channel. I'm Meteorologist James Long signing off for today. You guys have a great and wonderful day.